Hey, fight fans, you're listening to Caveman's Corner with your host,
Captain Caveman!
Jeff Dens.
All right, welcome to Doozer Nation. I'm here for another great podcast. This time I have with me someone very, very special to me. My one, my only, my son, Forrest KV Jr. Dens. How's it going, Forrest?
Good.
That was the worst intro ever. You're like, good. So, I wanted to bring you on this podcast because you, more than anyone else I know, is experienced the fight life. You just recently got another belt promotion. You do jiu-jitsu with me, one of your instructors. And your other instructor, Coach Matt Flores, said something that really struck with me. He said that you were born to be a fighter. You were raised to be a fighter. Like, your whole life, you've been nothing but around fighters. And I thought this was, like, a super interesting perspective to have podcasts from. So, when was the earliest that you can remember being around fighting or MMA or jiu-jitsu?
Since I was really like 6 or 7.
6 or 7, that's all you can really remember?
Maybe 5 or 4.
Do you remember hiding upstairs at Victory for the fights and coming upstairs and traveling around with me?
Yeah.
What about, like, wrestling tournaments and stuff like that when you're little?
I remember you going to wrestling tournaments. I don't really remember going to one with you, though.
Right. And do you remember any of the fights or anything like that you were at?
I sort of remember the last fight that you had was the one that I watched, and it was you losing, but it was a pretty cool experience.
Yeah. What was that experience like for you?
It was definitely engaging, especially more engaging. Fighting's definitely an engaging sport, but watching my own dad fight was like a lot cooler and more engaging.
Yeah. Do you remember a time when we didn't have like crazy bald-headed tattooed people coming over to the house?
Yeah, I remember. It was just us.
Really? Man, you must be asleep for a lot of stuff because we've always had like fighters come over to the house. Because as long as you've been alive, I've been fighting. How about your own training? What do you remember about starting training?
I remember since I was about 7, I've been doing it. I remember since I was about 5, I was doing it. And I used to train at Buffalo BJJ. It was really fun. We had great coaches.
Do you remember who your coaches were over there?
From the time I remember, it was pretty much occasionally you were coaching, and then it was Coach Keith Ferrant, who is now Muay Thai crew, and Coach Carlos.
Yeah, Coach Carlos. Do you remember Coach Dayball at all? Or Miss Alexis?
I remember Coach Dave. I don't remember.
You don't remember Alexis? Alexis came and coached a couple of times. So Forrest was actually trained by a UFC title contender, Alexis Davis, as a 3-year-old training. So just so you know, you have that in your repertoire. About how long have you been training?
Since I was 3.
Since you were 3, and how old are you now?
10.
And so how many years is that?
7. But
7? Are you part Asian?
Yeah.
Boy, your math is good, man. I could tell you're Asian.
One thing to note about my training, though, was I was sort of in and out in the beginning, and I really didn't start taking anything serious till I was about 8. And I didn't really start wrestling or striking since I was like 8 or 9 as well.
Speaking of when you started taking it serious, I have kind of detoured to a serious topic. You were kind of just goofing around. You started doing we had already moved over to Western New York MMA at the time. So we left Buffalo BJJ, and they only taught jiu-jitsu at Buffalo BJJ, correct? All right, so we went. He's nodding. This is when I ask you a question, you gotta say yes or no or something, okay? Because my viewing audience is not really a viewing audience; they're just a listening audience. So you gotta speak. Got it?
Yep.
All right. Yep. You need to get your cowboy hat. Anyways, we moved over to Western New York MMA, and you started doing like the Taekwondo program with Coach JJ. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, it was cool in the beginning because I was pretty much doing something new and at a new gym with a little bit of a fresh start. At that time, I started realizing if I take this serious, I could be like really good. But as time went on, his class, no offense, got a little bit of repetitious.
Repetitious?
And the one thing...
What does that mean? I'm not sure.
It's when something repeats a lot.
Man, my kid's teaching me words already today. All right, keep going. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your train of thought.
And then one thing I didn't really like towards the end of his program before the new coaches came in, 2 amazing coaches, Coach Matt and Coach Caveman, came in.
Shameless caveman plug. From the best. He learned from the best.
I couldn't wear a black gi to Taekwondo, to the pretty much Taekwondo class. There was barely any jiu-jitsu in there at all. I couldn't wear a black gi. But if we're really going in sequence of events here, it wasn't just Coach JJ and then you. After Coach JJ's class ended, and about 3/4 of the way before it ended, a new coach the assistant coach, Coach Bayo, who was more of a jiu-jitsu guy, started his own jiu-jitsu class on Tuesdays and Saturdays. So I started going to that, and that was when I started actually doing some real, serious jiu-jitsu.
Cool. And at that time, you were getting kind of a big head, I would say, myself, as your father. And you thought you were a pretty badass little dude, didn't you?
Yeah.
And then what happened?
And then I got beat up by a girl who was older than me, but I still got beat up by a girl.
Right. And before that happened, I was really talking about the time you boxed in a cage. Remember at the time you thought you were like a super good stand-up striker. We took you in the ring. At this time you were getting really tired of training, to be honest with you. So we brought you in the ring. You thought you knew everything. And what happened when you got in the ring with that kid that could box? This kid, what was he, like 12? And at the time you were probably, what, 8?
Yeah.
So there's a considerable height and reach difference, but Forrest thought you could go there and MMA him. And why don't you put it in your words what happened next?
So this kid, the jiu-jitsu coach knew him, and he thought I could spar with him. Before that, I sparred with his kid once, and
his daughter once, right?
His daughter once, but that was the same girl that beat me up in jiu-jitsu, but she wasn't so good at striking, so I sort of beat her in that aspect. And I felt really good about that. But when he put me in with the kid he knew, he was probably training since he was 3, and he's probably forced to take it seriously since he was 3.
He was a very serious boxer. He had good hands.
So I maybe touched him once in the body. The rest of the time I was just getting my face pounded in.
I remember you were crying. I came over. I was coaching. I forgot what I was doing. This was at the new gym, right? It wasn't upstairs. It was at the new gym.
It was at the relocated gym.
Yeah, so I was doing something where I was going back and forth, and I left for a while, and I came back. And when I came back, your mouth was bleeding, your nose was bleeding. You were getting pretty whooped on. There's kind of like a code in a gym. You don't really stop a fight as a practitioner. And as a father, I felt even worse because I'm like, man, that's my kid getting in there beat up. If I go in there, it's going to look bad for him. That's his dad coming in there, even more than being a coach. So I let it go on probably longer than I should. And you were really crying. You're losing your composure. That kid was smashing you pretty good. Even when I went over there to break it up, you ran over there and you kicked him in the leg after. He was just having a good time, too. This kid was, physically superior to you at the time. He's bigger, taller, stronger, and he knew what he was doing. He was a serious fighter. He was not just a martial artist. And that was kind of your rude awakening into martial arts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How did that feel in your head?
Terrible.
Terrible?
I mean, I went from thinking I was great to thinking I was terrible.
Right. You were beat up pretty good, and you were ready to quit. You wanted to leave the gym at that point, right?
Yeah.
And then what happened next?
Well, sorry, I'm a pretty emotional person.
That's all right. Anyone that listens to this podcast and knows you, they've already seen you cry, so it's all right.
So, after my new amazing coach told me that, as time went on, I could probably come back and beat his butt. But, so...
You're talking what amazing coach?
My father.
Yeah! All right, keep going.
But, so yeah, he told me as I got older I could come back and beat that kid's face in. And after I got over it, I thought about that, and I decided to come back and work hard so I could be like that kid.
And where did we go? We left. I took you. For a little while. I was taking you to Booma, right, to train.
Booma.
And can you tell me how that went for you over there?
Booma was actually really awesome. When I was younger and I was still training at Buffalo BJJ, I kind of had an integrated relationship with Coach Keith France, who is now
What? Did you say integrated? What does that
Yeah.
mean? You
That-
gotta explain. I'm like a 7-year-old man. I don't understand these big
That
words, dude.
means,
Jesus Christ.
Well, it has two meanings. It means something that's not separated, or something that was like that's solid and strong and was like it was supposed to happen, and it was like it must happen.
Okay. Continue.
It's like inevitable to happen.
Gotcha.
So I became friends with now Crew Keith's son. His name is Dylan, and I trained over there. He trained there too. It felt good. I felt like I was learning a lot, and it was a fun experience. And like training at Booma is a lot different from training at WNY. WNY is a lot more fast-paced and intense, and Booma's more of a friendly, welcoming class for kids.
Would you say we're friendly and welcoming as well, or would you just say
Now
we're
we're
just fast-paced? Or are you talking about it at the time?
Now we're more friendly, but it's still high-paced because the classes we do and the disciplines that are taught are more intense. Well, they teach Muay Thai there too, but Crew Keith makes it into like an easy class to where you slowly learn how to do martial arts, but you also make friendships that usually would last. They're like friendships that last a lifetime. But I trained there for a while. I had lots of fun. I learned quite a bit. I trained with Dylan. I got to see him a lot more, which was nice at the time. And then my dad took over the.
Yeah, I'll get in. I'll do the time moving. It's my show. We're gonna go on my pace, all right? Jeez, taking over the show already.
Yeah.
All right. Jeez, pretty soon you'll be hosting the show and I'll be listening to you. All right. So what happened next is Forrest started competing in some jiu-jitsu tournaments. We worked together for a while. He started doing jiu-jitsu with Bayo and a great guy, Coach Matt. There was a incident at the tournament, and Coach Bayo was forced to. Coach Bayo left teaching the program because he had some issues going on with his daughter. I don't really want to get into it. It's kind of a topic for a different time. But Coach Bayo left teaching the program, and I talked with Professor Mike over at Western New York MMA, and I started teaching a jiu-jitsu program, and then we grew it into the program that is now into a fully integrated martial arts program where we teach the Muay Thai, we teach jiu-jitsu, we teach wrestling. Can you tell me how it is to work with your dad for a coach?
It honestly goes both ways, bad and good. It's good because I can go home and we can talk over the stuff that Coach Matt or Coach Caveman, my dad, taught in class at home. So that's good for me learning personally. But sometimes it's harder because he's my dad, and sometimes there's a struggle or a stress of being the coach's son. Because being the coach's son, it's not really a burden, but it's a duty to be the coach's son and not be.
What do you mean
goofing
by
around all
burden?
the time.
What is that? What do you feel like you need to do being my son?
I don't think it's a burden, but I do think
Or
it's
duty? I apologize.
yeah.
A duty.
It's a duty that, like, you have to be the coach's son. You can't be fooling around all the time, but you also can't be thinking that you're the best, or at least verbally displaying that. You have to. You kind of have to control yourself and keep your calm and keep your cool while you're being the coach's son. And, well, on the mat. Off the mat, it's a different story. Being a coach's son or daughter, it has its benefits in the gym, and it has it's bad parts at the gym, but it's better to be the coach's son than not to be, especially for my learning.
Can you talk about some of the relationships you've established over at Western New York MMA?
Well, at Western New York MMA, there's a pretty good brotherhood. There's a brotherhood, but yeah, there's a brotherhood. So one of the kids there that I have a really good and currently long-lasting relationship with Coach Matt's son, Matt Flores Jr. He's really good at jiu-jitsu, but more importantly, we're like brothers. We help each other out, and we try to help each other in our bad times, and we enjoy our good times together.
Can you tell my listening audience what we did today?
What do you mean today?
What did we do this morning?
Oh, there's a really good student in class. His name is Niall, and he likes wrestling a lot. So he wrestles at our gym, and he wrestles for his school club, which isn't exactly related to the school. It's something that the school sets up that's not
it's a
for the
club.
school.
It's not what it is it's a club. It's not an actual school-related event or a sport.
So he went to his first wrestling tournament this morning, and he struggled, and he didn't have a match for his first match because apparently the other
You got
guy
one of them
can-
Bi brothers. Them Bi brothers are tough. They run a school. There's like 60 of them. You gotta look out for the Bi brothers. If you gotta get a Bi brother, you better be careful. Them dudes are tough.
What he means is that you don't have a match for that.
There's like a running joke that sometimes we play on the kids that if you get a Bi brother, a Bi means that you don't have a match. You're just going. You're advancing to the next round. Well, in wrestling, we would tell the other wrestlers that, man, those Bi brothers are tough. There's like 30. Go look at the board. Look how many of them there are. They like run the school. This is like a little joke that you play on some of the younger new kids. Yeah, it's usually pretty funny. Usually a little bit older than Forrest's age, but it's still a pretty good joke. So, anyways, we just spent. How long do you think we were there today?
We were there for like 3.5 hours waiting for his second match. It took a long time. We had a hard time finding which mat he was on, and he was really confused because he had a Bi match. I guess that's what you would call it. But
He was in a round robin. There's actually like 3 people, so he wrestled each person once.
So yeah. So we saw one of his matches, and he won 6-4 by points. And he did pretty good for what we saw. We don't know the rest of the tournament though. But I think he did pretty well, not knowing how he did, but I could think that he did pretty well.
Yeah, and would you say that's like we're pretty much a family at Western New York, right? I try and make it that way at least for all
We're
of
a
us.
family. There are a lot of people that I know and that are really good friends and maybe even close to brothers, especially Matt. But yeah, it's like a brotherhood, and it's like a family. It's like a second family. Like martial arts is, some people don't understand that aspect of martial arts. It's not just all about you and you being flashy and selling the sport. It's also about the brotherhood of your training partners and your coaches.
That's very well spoken for 10-year-old, man. I'm so proud to hear you say stuff like that. It's just amazing hearing that come from you. That's like what I try and preach to all you guys. And it just makes me proud to be your dad when you say stuff like that. How good do you think your striking is now?
I think my striking is pretty good. That kid is fast though, so I might struggle with him still, but I think it's just a matter of growing and learning till I beat him. But you're always going to be able to beat somebody that kicks your butt, because one aspect that's for real is that you're going to start learning the game. But other aspects of it is that you're going to grow and you're going to become, and if there's not a huge age difference, you're going to get close you're going to get at a close level physically, and at that point it just matters on experience, technique, and how much you've learned.
Awesome, man. That's so well spoken. I would say that you're probably one of the best natural strikers I've seen in a long, long time. Out of my program, you're definitely number one when it comes to stand-up. You just flow real natural. It feels real good. Jiu-jitsu, you struggle with jiu-jitsu, and it's a very frustrating passion for you. I understand. Our whole family does jiu-jitsu. You see mom do jiu-jitsu too, and it's a very frustrating sport. What do you think about your mom doing jiu-jitsu?
I think it's pretty cool. We have a whole family in a house doing jiu-jitsu. It's pretty awesome. Another cool part is we get to talk about jiu-jitsu, and we basically have a coach at home, so we can learn a lot of new stuff and share insights on jiu-jitsu.
How was watching your mom compete? Did you watch, or were you like playing around?
I watched some of it, and just like how you watch anybody who's close to you, you get nervous, and you hope they don't get hurt. You hope they win. And sometimes it's hard to see them lose, but it's just how it goes.
Speaking of getting hurt, what's the worst injury you've personally seen?
Fracturing? Seen or had?
Seen? Well, we'll get to you personally, but what's the worst one you've seen so far?
The worst one I've seen? I don't know really. Most of the injuries that I see are knockouts in practice by accident.
Knockouts? What practices are you watching? Holy cow.
Well, sometimes people put each other to sleep in practice.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so you mean like put them to sleep. I've seen that before.
And then sometimes arms pop out. Like parts of arms pop out.
Oh, you seen the arm pop out?
Well, sometimes arms look really bad when sometimes arms look really bad in arm bars in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, some of you guys are really double jointed. It's kind of sick to watch you guys. What's the worst one that you've personally experienced?
Fracturing my toe.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even actually doing martial arts. I was just like playing with the ball after class. And like the mats there are so easy to get your toe stuck.
Uh-huh.
And like it got stuck so bad it popped, and like for the next few weeks it was like it hurt, and it was bruised. So
that was worse than the gash you got? Do you remember that?
What?
Do you remember the gash you got?
I don't remember the gash, so I can't really say that.
This is a great story. Okay, so Forrest had to be about 3. I was training for an MMA fight over at Buffalo BJJ, and I was training or whatever, and Forrest, there's this ab wheel thing, and Forrest was playing with it. He was pretending it was a motorcycle, and somehow he fell down and cut his eye. At the time, it was before I had my LASIK surgery, so I couldn't see, and I was training, and everyone was like, oh, Forrest fell down, he's hurt, he's bleeding. I'm like, oh, he'll be fine, he's really tough. When I finally saw how bad you were bleeding, I was like, oh, man, we gotta go. So we ended up taking you to the hospital. I called your mom. I was like, you probably should sit down and listen and do not panic. Forrest has a cut, and we're going to the hospital. And oh my God, you wouldn't want to be on the other end of that phone. I'm sure you understand. You remember about nodding?
Yeah.
All right, there we go.
I've seen her. I've seen my mother when she's mad or frustrated or panicked.
Yeah. So, anyways, we go to the hospital. Mom meets us there, and they actually had to like tie you down to the board so they could stitch you. And woof, it was bad. But before that happened, you kept telling everyone, "Oh yeah, I was working on a motorcycle with my dad, and I had a screwdriver, and I got stabbed in the head." And like you, every time you told the story, you were doing more and more stuff. And I was like, "Oh my God, CPS is gonna end up taking you away." I was like, "Holy cow!" All because I was training over in the corner, and you were pretending you were a motorcycle. That was like some crazy stuff that we had going on. What do you remember about me fighting?
I've seen tapes of you. You definitely stood and traded punches, and I've heard you've stood and traded punches for like a lot. And sometimes you come home, you're gassed. Sometimes you have little cuts or bruises, and I don't exactly remember it. It's very vague memory, but if I saw that now, I'd probably be like Mom.
Yeah.
I probably would freak out and be like, "What happened?" But the one really good fight that I saw you fight was the quick 8-second fight where you guillotined the guy in like 8 seconds because he tried to take you down.
Yeah. Yeah, I put him not quite to sleep, but I put him pretty close to sleep. So you don't remember all those times I was away from the house and all that growing up?
Well, I remember you being away from the house. I remember having to go to Lola's, and I was like,
For those people that don't speak Chinese, can you tell them what Lala means?
oh, I forgot. Lola means grandma. Sorry.
And what language?
Chinese.
Do you speak Chinese?
A little bit.
Can you say my ass is red in Chinese?
No.
All right.
I think
Mom's
that's a
over in the
good
corner
thing.
giving me the look. I just want everyone to know that my wife is sitting in the studio monitoring what I say to Forrest, and I'm trying to get him to say some bad word. It's not working so far, but maybe by the end of the podcast I can get him to slip. He's a very good young man. How do you say ass in Chinese?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I hope I don't know.
All right. You
I
never
hope
heard
I
it in that
won't know.
video game, Sleeping Dogs?
Well, most of the stuff I don't understand.
Okay. All right. I'm moving on. Do you feel like fighting has affected our relationship as a father and son? Me fighting personally, not being there for you?
No, not really.
No.
I don't really take it like that way because there's so much other stuff that's fun to do with you, and I hang out a lot with you anyways. We watch UFC now together.
Yeah. To be honest, I've taken you to a lot of places I go with. You've always been amazing when we go to gyms. Every parent is going to say their kid's really good. It doesn't matter who they are. Every parent thinks their kid's good. But on the inside, you really know, you should really be able to tell if your kid's pretty well behaved or not well behaved, even if you don't spend that much time with them. I know how well my son has behaved because I've been to gym after gym after gym. Most of the gyms don't allow kids to come in, and Forrest has always been allowed. He's so good. He always sits patiently in the corner, either playing a video game or reading a book or doing what he's supposed to do. He always stays out of the way. To be honest, when I sat down, I thought we were going to talk about this, and you were going to remember all those times you were so bored at the fights. Do you remember any of that at all, or not really so much?
I went to like 3 TNTs. I wasn't really bored. The fight, I enjoy watching fighting. So
I don't mean the fights themselves. I mean, fights are awesome. We both know that because we love fighting. I was talking about like all the trips to Victory every Saturday, because we start out, we go to Jamestown in the morning on Saturday, then we go to Victory at night, and then sometimes we come up to Buffalo BJJ. We would go to like 3 schools in a day on the weekend. That's how we spend our weekends, like your formative years. You're 10 now. Like from the time you were 3 to about 8, that's what we did every day, every weekend.
it wasn't that bad, especially usually having my sister with me on the weekends,
Mm-hmm.
especially at Victory. Because if I didn't have my sister, I'd probably be boring myself to death without a video game.
Right.
But yeah, it wasn't too boring though most of the time. You were
Good.
doing something, or I was just sitting in the corner waiting.
Do you remember stopping for snacks all the time?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember we stopped at like 7-Eleven every Saturday.
Yeah. And you guys used to eat all the junk food, and I couldn't have any of it. It used to
Yeah.
make me like, oh, these kids. But I love having you guys with me, and it was like an amazing journey. What do you think about me fighting again?
I don't think it'll be good for you, but I
What?
think good for your health.
Okay.
I think it'd be cool to see you fight though, because I
Yeah.
only seen one fight.
Mm-hmm. It didn't turn out so good, right?
No.
Nick Brown beat my ass. He sure did.
Plus, I was younger. I didn't really. I still wasn't into into the UFC or fighting a lot then, but like now I am, and it'd be cool to see you fight again. I especially want to see you fight again since you changed the way you fight, and I think it'd be pretty cool,
Yeah, I
especially
think so too.
since you're older.
What? How old am I?
Well, you're older for a fighter. Usually, a fighter's prime age is 24 to 29.
Yeah. And how far out of that range am I? Do you know how old I am?
Yeah, you're about 10 years away from prime stage.
So I'm 10 years out of my prime, and it's still cool to see me fight?
Yeah,
Are you worried about me getting brain
especially since you punch people's nobody's really ever been able to do that much to you at the gym. So I think you'd fare fine.
Yeah, we do have a lot of pros and amateurs I bang with every day. They do a pretty good job. What do you think about the time that I'm going to have to spend away from you if I do fight?
Depends on if I come or not.
Yeah.
The time spent at Jamestown and stuff, I don't know. I don't think I'd really care because it all end up with a fun final result and a new experience, really.
This time, some of the training you can do with me even, you know, like, because
Yeah.
this time, before, I was at Western New York MMA. I used to go different places for kickboxing, for jiu-jitsu, for wrestling. Now we kind of got everything in one facility, so I won't have to do so much driving. I would still like to go out. Crew Mark is, like, awesome. He's been awesome to you. He's been awesome to me.
Yeah.
I'd still go out and do a little bit of touching up with him. I think I do most of the training really close to the house. So hopefully we can do that experience together.
That'd be really awesome. I'd be able to see it firsthand.
Do you think you have an advantage over other kids pretty much growing up in gyms?
A fitness,
And life in general, not just in fitness. Obviously, if you're training at the gym, you have a huge fitness advantage over the fat kid that's watching TV and playing video games and not really doing anything, you know? Like, it's a big problem in our culture, and that's why I run a kids program. I'd love to see these guys work. We do ladder drills. We work out really hard. And we try and, teach how important fitness is. But I just mean in life in general. I mean, you've seen a lot of stuff in the gym that most kids don't see until they're an adult. What do you think about that?
Well, before we get to that, the one big reason I wanted to talk about fitness is in school we read this article about ads that make kids eat more junk food. And it basically said there are, like, tons of ads on normal TV that kids watch with their parents or kids watch by themselves on, like, kids channels like Nickelodeon or something. That are really starting to affect kids' lives, and they're getting. It even talked about how it might affect kids all the way up to obesity, which I don't believe obesity is unchangeable, and I don't think you have to be obese, and I don't think you should give up when you're getting big.
God damn, you're well spoken. Holy cow.
But about in life in general, I think.
Hang on. What do you think that we should do about that commercial? Do you think the government should make a regulation to stop that? Do you think you should educate the kids better? What do you think?
I think we should really just educate the nation's kids or the world's kids even, because TVs are technology that came out in the 1900s. They're pretty much all over the world now. The world, even you don't think it sometimes, the whole world keeps up with technology. And that's in everything, bad or not. It's advancements in war, technology, life.
What came first, TV or the automobile?
I think the automobile.
What came first, planes or TVs?
I think TVs came out before planes could travel past ocean, could travel over water.
How much water? What about puddle?
Well, they could fly over a puddle if it rained, but ocean.
What about a lake?
They could go over a lake if it was small enough, but what I'm talking about.
How about the Mississippi River?
They probably couldn't fly along it, but what I'm trying to say is they can't go over oceans. They couldn't go overseas
Like
ships.
transatlantic or transpacific, like go from a continent to a continent over the ocean?
Yeah, they couldn't do that. So TVs came out before planes could travel the world.
What came first, radio or television?
Radio.
What came first, the fake moon landing or TV?
I think the not fake moon landing happened before that.
Do you believe that we really landed on the moon?
Yes.
Are there aliens?
Maybe, but it's probably farther in our solar system that we haven't explored yet, or it's in other galaxies and solar systems.
Here on Caveman's Corner, we delve into the minds of young, up-and-coming 10-year-olds, so don't miss out on this podcast. These are great. I think we should have some child psychologists sitting here with me and ask you a bunch of ink blot questions. Do you know what the Rorschach test is?
No.
That's when they take an ink blot and they put it on paper and I go, I'm taking my folder and I'm smashing it together and rubbing it, and they open it up and they say, what does that look like? And you would say, crickets chirping. Cheep, cheep, cheep.
They'd probably be like a blob.
Yeah, that's what I would always say too. That's why I can't be a policeman's. What about life lessons? What I really wanted to get into is some of the stuff you've seen in the gym is more than what an average person would see. You've been in the locker rooms. You've seen guys get ready to fight. You've seen guys go out and fight. You've seen the highs of winning. You've seen the lows of losing. You've seen guys get really hurt, being bloody. What have you learned from watching these guys compete, being in a locker room, hearing their vulgar language, some of the stuff they talk about, that normal 10-year-olds aren't around, or 8-year-olds or 3-year-olds? You've been around that your entire life, and you're very well spoken. I've never heard you use a curse word. I've been trying to get you to swear this whole podcast. I know you know them, and I'm like so proud of you that you're so well spoken and you don't swear. Can you just explain to me how you can turn out to be such a good kid, being around this environment that you were raised in?
Well, I think it's really because of the people, like the elders and the teachers and the mentors I've had, really taught me to be the person I am. They taught me not to do a lot of the things that I really shouldn't do. Even with kids that are my age, that like the world's turning for worse kind of now. There are kids in my grade last year, maybe even the year before that, and now, that either frequently, occasionally, or sometimes being more than occasionally, use swear words. So, but I think it's really integrated in me from my parents that try not to swear, because the whole point of, like, it's kind of this deep, but the whole point of reproducing is so the next generation of whatever is being reproduced is better than the last one, either being physically better or mentally better or smarter, and that would change the world. So I think if you're well behaved and you don't swear and you don't make bad behaviors, there's a better chance of you not having a bad, uneducated, maybe even worthless life.
Oh man, that's really deep. You're very right. We've always spoken to you about how you speak. The way that you speak and enunciate words and whether you use cursing or not is pretty much how people judge your education level. And once people think you're dumb, they always pigeonhole you into that being dumb range. I know we talk about this a lot at home, and I don't really talk about this too much because I have this whole image of being a caveman where I'm supposed to be dumb, so I don't really say too many smart things. But people really judge your intelligence just on how you speak. And if you really want to see how people judge you, one time when you meet someone, just talk like you're not educated or you don't think well, and they will always talk to you different than they will. No matter how you speak after that first impression, they'll always judge your intelligence by that first conversation. And the way you hold yourself, people are always going to know that you're an intelligent young man. And that's pretty important to me, and I'm glad it's like that. You've seen some crazy stuff at the gym. You've seen guys argue. I'm going to use this one example. We had two of these guys. One guy Forrest really looks up to, Sean Superfly Felton, argue with Mr. Todd Liberati the one day. You really get to see on a very intimate level how grown men interact when they're angry with each other. Can you tell me what you learned from that experience?
I learned that from that experience, I definitely learned to stay calm and to really think and not just to argue, which they did. Well, instead of just shouting at each other about what you don't like about each other, what you don't like about the people that like the person that you're shouting at, it's better to stay calm than to argue, because when you start arguing and you start shouting and you start getting loud, there's really no point anymore. When you're not shouting and you're actually talking like normal people in a normal tone, you really talk about things a lot better than when you're shouting at each other. When you're shouting at each other, sometimes people don't even understand what you're saying because you're not enunciating your words, and sometimes not even stating a point very well or clearly.
That's pretty good, man. I can't believe how well spoken you are. Like when I thought that we started this podcast, I thought it was gonna be about 8 minutes long. We're past 41 minutes and 46 seconds, and we're going strong. I'm like super impressed by you. One of the reasons I really enjoy fighting is because athletes that do it, the men and women that do compete, always think that they can do anything. that's one great aspect of the martial arts and fighting that I love to death, and that's the reason why I'm so happy to have you in a gym, that these people can struggle against like all the adversity that they run into in everyday life, the adversity they run into in the cage, and they still keep their head up and they still keep trying to go forward. Do you think that's shaped your personality at all? You're one of those kids that never really wants to give up, and I'm pretty proud about that.
I think seeing those people really teaches me about how I should be when I grow up and how I want to be. Because, like, the guy you were talking about earlier, Mr. Sean Felton, in the gym at least, he makes good decisions and he works hard and he's dedicated. We don't know about his life outside the gym, but you can infer on the way he acts on the mat and in the cage and at the gym that he's a good person. There are a lot of good attributes to people, and sometimes there are bad attributes to that same person. But if you take all the good attributes from the gym, you can really see that if you can overlook some of the non-important bad habits and bad things that they do, there are really some good people and dedicated people in the gym. But I think part of me not giving up is just,
Got that little caveman in you.
I think it's just how I grew up and how my life and my personality was shaped. And some of it I was probably just born with, because I was born by two people that never give up. Much.
That's touching. I think what you see in the fight world is just a little piece of what you get every day in life, but it's at a super, super accelerated rate. So the things that you see in the gym, like you see the good habits and the bad habits, what happens when you do good and what happens when you don't do good, it affects you almost immediately in the fight world. And I think seeing that accelerates your maturity level more than I could ever imagine or I could ever do on my own. And that's another one of the reasons why I like to have you in life. Gym life is just a microcosm of real life. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Sort of.
Do you know what microcosm means?
But I was just about to adjust that. By the way, finally, the guy I've been trying to explain words to has thrown a word at me that I don't understand.
All right, you're gonna have to go home and look it up.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. A microcosm is just like it's one little view of the same view that happens all over the world. So if you don't train hard for your fight, you lose your fight. That's just like if you don't go to work every day real hard and work real hard, you don't get paid. In the gym, that training happens in a 2-week period instead of like a 2-year period. So I think you're learning these life lessons at an accelerated pace. What you've seen as a 10-year-old is what most people have seen by the time they're like 23. I think that's why you're more mature than some of the fighters in the gym. What do you think about that?
I think just my motivation of being a better person also affects that. I think most of it is me trying to find the good habits out of everybody and trying to bring it all together so I can be the best person that I can be. Because if I'm not the best person I can be and I don't work hard, I'm never going to be successful, and I might even end up uneducated. Even how unlikely that seems can happen. You never know what can happen.
Yeah, anything can happen. So in the gym, probably every gym in Western New York we've been in at least one time, you've seen a lot of bad stuff. And does any of the bad stuff attract you? I mean, we've seen people do drugs, we've seen people not train, we've seen people be bad to their girlfriends, we've seen people be bad to their boyfriends. What do you take out of it when you see something happening that's wrong?
Usually most of the stuff I see at our gym is immaturity from adults, and sometimes it's just like, what's the point of being immature if you're at that age? If you're painting a bad picture, why would you want to be painting a bad picture? I just don't understand, because I would love to paint a perfect picture of me so that people didn't think I'd cry a lot and people didn't think I'd easily cry. So I don't understand why people think that if they show these bad behaviors and this immaturity, that's going to get them somewhere. unless you want a job at a comedy show, you really should be mature at places like the gym or at an office situation.
So to put your analogy into real words, what you're saying is if someone is exhibiting very bad behavior in the gym and out in real life, what kind of person are they going to be? And everyone's going to see what kind of person they are, and it's going to adversely or negatively affect them, correct?
Yeah.
Man, you are deep, man, with your analogies. You got smart people words. Holy crap. Are you sure you're my kid and you're not alien?
Yeah.
Do you believe in aliens?
I think they're out there. They're just not very close to Earth. They're probably like millions or billions or trillions of light years away.
You know GSP, right?
George
St. Pierre? Yeah.
I've seen him in the UFC encyclopedia, and I've heard all about him.
I'm pretty sure he believes in aliens. He believes like he's been kidnapped by aliens, I think.
Didn't you say he believes in some crazy stuff just the other day?
I did in fact say that. Although George St. Pierre, if you're listening to this, please do not beat me up.
Well,
what do you think about drugs?
I think they have no point. Like, what's the point of doing drugs? Why were they
I would
even
say
invented?
people do drugs because it makes them feel good.
Well, here's the thing. If it makes you relaxed, well, I read an article about this in school too, because we do like these magazines at school. Part of the bad part about drugs is they're unhealthy for you, and when you do them, it lowers your dopamine levels, and dopamine's what makes you happy. So you have to heighten your dopamine levels again. You have to do more drugs. So that's really how you get people addicted to drugs. But if you really need that much relaxing, find a hobby or something, like painting or drawing or writing.
Or video games.
Or video games. Well, video games don't always make you relax, but find something that can make you relax besides drugs. They're bad for you, and if you just keep doing them and you only mean to do them once, there's never a good result of that.
Never?
Not usually.
What do you think about guys that do steroids?
I think that if they were legal in MMA, everybody would do them, and they get fighters to do it. They got wrestlers to do it, so like I'm doing air quotes, wrestlers to do it. But if they're getting all these people to do it, and it's unhealthy for you, it just makes you stronger. And if you really need to be that strong, you could just focus your life on bodybuilding.
Would you ever cheat to win?
Not usually. Like, very, 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 very rarely. Almost never.
And I think that's the crux that these guys run into. And the reason why, these athletes do it is it's their only way to make a living sometimes. I'm not condoning or encouraging people to do steroids, but I would say that's the reason why they take performance-enhancing drugs, because they don't feel like they can win and make a living without them.
But
recreational drugs, there's something else. Sometimes it's just a weakness of personality. Sometimes as a fighter, you just need to be a cut above of regular people. And you, more than anyone else, understands that, being a cut above the rest of the kids in the kids club, right?
yeah, I'm the coach's son, and I'm a junior instructor, which is somebody who has more, who can do more than the average student in the kids club, and they help coach, and they learn more things, especially in jiu-jitsu, that they have to teach, or they can do warm-ups and get a head start if they want to be a coach or something. Because if a coach needs to run an errand and there's only one coach there, the junior instructors start the warm-ups, do stretches. I think that really educates the junior instructors. But the 4 junior instructors we have really went above and beyond at some point and are staying on that level pretty much and pretty often.
Yeah, I'm proud of all you guys. What's your favorite part of training?
My favorite part of training is there's 2 things I really love about training. I love the brotherhood that there is. I love the family that there is. And having the stress on me sometimes as the coach's son, and having people walk off the mat, stop their own learning to come try to make me laugh is really means a lot. And the other part of training
Forrest
I
is
love.
talking about. Forrest is a really emotional child, and sometimes he walks off the mat crying. He gets really frustrated easy. Takes a lot of the burden and pressures on himself. If he has a hard time doing a technique or a move, it often brings him to tears and frustration. And he also gets angry when he loses, which I like that about him, but I don't like that he gets off the mat and he's that upset. I feel like if you can never be a really good competitive athlete if you're okay with losing. Actually, to be honest with you, it sometimes makes me proud when you get off the mat, but as a coach, it makes me upset. So there's a lot of dichotomy in my relationship with you as well. There's a lot of times I'm really proud of you that I yell at you. We talk about this a lot. A lot of times what you do is you're stopping the other kids from messing around, and I'll come and I'll yell at you. Even though you're the one, I clearly see that you're the one trying to stop them from being bad. Forrest over here tearing up, so that, it's tough to keep talking, but I put the blame on him instead of the other kids. And some of it is to make the other kids feel bad for making you feel bad, and some of it is because I do expect that much out of you. And some of it is I talk to you even before class. I'm like, I tell you I'm going to do that, and then you still get upset about it. But I know that's a really tough burden to carry, and I'm always proud of you. We also have a great stable of fighters. I brought them in for some of the kids' classes. Can you tell me about some of your favorite fighters and guys that you look up to in the gym?
Well,
in our gym, first of all.
Yeah. Well, first, I look up to my coaches of the kids club a lot, including my dad. Especially how the one thing that inspires me is that you went from having heart and having some striking skills, some bottom skills, some wrestling skills, to really having a good game. And you still have heart, and it's not about winning. It's still not about winning. It's about doing your best and trying to win the fight and having as much fun as you can because you like the sport. You love the sport. You do a lot for it, including this podcast, by the way.
For sure.
But and then Coach Matt is like a great jiu-jitsu practitioner, and he's overall a great person. Sometimes he makes Matt watch the jiu-jitsu tapes, but that's good for Matt, and sometimes he doesn't see that. Sometimes he complains about it, but I really think Coach Matt's doing a good deed, especially for being a dad. He's helping Matt protect himself if he ever needs to, and Coach Matt's also a great person to kids, and he's just like a really awesome coach, and he supports you throughout whatever you do in class, and he really doesn't yell at you too much, and he helps you with your techniques a lot in jiu-jitsu. And then other fighters I look up to are Mr. Alex, who's a great boxer. Is he pro?
He's not pro yet, but
he's planning to turn pro.
Yeah, he's planning to turn pro this year or very early next year.
So he's a great boxer. He's quick, and he has heart, and he's not a bad person. He's a good person. A lot of the fighters I look up to, they lost. They're good. They've lost, but usually what I look up to the most in fighters and what I look for to see if they're good, if they could be a really good fighter or if they are a really good fighter, is if they're a good person who has heart and, like you said, isn't okay with losing, and will think about how they lost and why they lost. They'll watch the tape 100 times if they have to. So Mr. Alex is kind of like one of those guys, and he's really a good person too to other people. And then I think the last person I'd like to mention from the gym is Mr. Sean Felton, and he goes in the back. He does classes. He's all over the place. He wins his fights. He's a great person. And one time one day I went into the gym. There was this card for like a setup party he did for like kids or like in the local neighborhood, and he's like everybody else I mentioned. He works really hard, and he's he's got a lot of heart, and he's got a lot of personality, and a lot of that's good personality.
And he gave you Twizzlers.
Yeah, and he gave me Twizzlers when I fractured my toe.
So who's your favorite fighter at the gym?
My favorite fighter is whoever has the most heart, because heart and personality and working hard is really important to me, especially being an emotional person.
Mm-hmm.
The three things I look for is if does that person have personality, or are they just an emotionalist person? The other thing I look for is hard work. Another thing I look for is hard work, because if you don't work hard, you're never going to be good. It doesn't matter if you're as good as Anderson Silva. If you don't work hard, eventually the people are going to be better than you, and they're going to win. Also, hard work is really what makes fighters fighters, and it's really what makes fighters win. And it's just a really good part of you that you can have.
All right. Who's your favorite professional, like UFC level fighter?
How? Like personality-wise or fighting-wise?
Both, either. I know you loved Yoel Romero for a long time until he popped hot for steroids.
Yeah, Yoel Romero is...
You don't like cheaters, though, right?
No, but Yoel Romero is like... has some of the... has done one of...
He's yoked, dude. He's a big,
he's done like
strong
one of
man.
the best, hardest slams I've ever seen.
Yeah.
He's huge.
He did poop himself in the cage, though.
He's huge and
like
he's
Mr.
strong.
Mickey.
And he's huge and he's strong, and he made like the biggest slam ever, and he's just a really good fighter. And then another really good fighter that I like is Conor McGregor.
Mm-hmm.
Recently, for like only a few days, he had
Where's my effing belt?
he had two UFC. He was the champion of the world in 2 weight divisions simultaneously.
Simultaneously? What does that mean? Or
At
did
the
you just say
same
it
time.
wrong?
I think I just said it wrong.
I don't know. I'm not too... You could be teaching me words. I don't know.
He was the champion in the featherweight division, which is 145 pounds, and the lightweight division, which is 155 pounds. But also recently, they secretly, without telling him, took the belt away from him. And then because Jose Aldo won a good fight, he's now the...
They gave it to him because he's ranked number 1, not because he won that fight.
champion.
Yeah, so he's a paper featherweight champion because he hasn't beat McGregor. What about my favorite guy?
Your favorite... Oh, my favorite person... Before we get to that, my favorite person who has heart, who works hard is maybe Anderson Silva, but... And then... What I've heard about Forrest Griffin, he's definitely a nice person, especially since he doesn't even know my mom, and she emailed him and he actually responded.
Yeah, she asked Forrest, because you're named after Forrest Griffin, actually, and Mom emailed him and asked him how he felt about being named Forrest. And he's like, that's all right. And if he doesn't like it, it only costs $40 to get it changed, so... Anytime you want to change your name, you can thank Forrest Griffin. But by the time you do it, it probably will cost more than $40.
Yeah. But the value of the money will stay the same.
No, it's going to inflate.
To change your name, it'll be more expensive?
Of course. Everything gets inflated.
Well, it might be...
Do you know how inflation works?
Not really, but it might be more in dollars.
All right, well then just trust me because I know how inflation works.
But the value of money might go down.
If that happens, we're all in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
It's not good for the economy.
No.
Just so you know. If you ever hear that, we're packing our bags and we're going to get ready for the zombie apocalypse.
But anyways, yeah.
Do you believe that we used to have a zombie living in our basement?
I used to when I was like 6, and then I was like, Mom told me you just whack the bat at the wall. But I was like, maybe there's still a zombie because I was still like 6. But like, I was 7 or 8, and I was like, yeah, no, there's no zombie.
I have Forrest convinced there was a zombie in the basement for a long time.
For like 6 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years maybe. Even.
Do you believe in Santa?
Yeah, I believe in God and Santa.
God and Santa? Who's
No.
more powerful?
not
Santa's
Santa.
I believe Santa's more powerful than God, too.
I think God's more powerful than Santa.
Okay.
Whoever God is.
Who's my favorite fighter?
George St. Pierre?
Try
Forrest
again.
Griffin?
Nope.
Stefan Bonner?
My favorite fighter now. We watched a lot of his tapes. We watched a breakdown of him. We watched him fight.
Dominic Cruz.
Dominic Cruz. There you go. Good work, man. What do you think about Dominic Cruz's style?
I think I could never do it. Just like Conor McGregor's style, I get kicked in the head. And the other style, I go the wrong way and I get punched in the face.
Yeah, that does happen to you a lot. But that's okay. You look cool when your face gets punched. You make that sad face and then you make the mad face. It's really good. Is there anything you want to talk about while I got you on here?
I don't know. There's a lot of a lot of my good experiences of MMA are mainly based off the brotherhood and the brotherhood and like the relationships that you make with
the family values that we have at our club, right? Is that what you're trying to say?
Or whoever I've trained with.
Right. And that's a great part about martial arts, that like all kids should do it. No matter any good school is gonna have that kind of environment where you feel safe. I don't know, man. That's about all I got for you, unless you got anything else. I'm looking at my notes I got for you, and like I had like 8 minutes of notes, so we're like way past there. We don't need that no more.
Oh, you made it.
Where'd it go?
It went into the garbage can.
Did it go in the garbage can?
Yeah, you made it.
Well, we're gonna have to pick it out because it wasn't supposed to go in the garbage. What a great throw! How many beers did you drink over there?
0.
Good.
I had some seltzer water, though.
Yeah, we had some seltzer water. The Fandoozy studio is very well stocked. So
Especially
we had
the
some, especially the fridge. So we had some beverages for the other podcast. Forrest has been here like a trooper all day.
The first podcast, the guest, not the guest co-host, but the guest took out blue alcohol.
Yeah, he did take out blue alcohol. But
it was 43.4% alcohol by volume.
Wow. What do you know about drinking?
I know the more alcohol by volume it is, the more it gets to your body, and the more.
What do you think about when you see the fighter drunk or doing drugs?
I don't think either's good for them. It's just gonna hinder them, and it's a bad decision to make, especially before the fight. And
well, I'm talking more like when they're
long-term?
done after they win, because you guys like to party.
Well, if you like to drink, you could have a beer after you win if you really want to, but it's eventually, if you drink a lot of alcohol, it really southpaws have a big advantage on you if they round kick you.
To the liver. I was wondering where you're going with
liver.
that. I was like a little confused at first. For anyone that doesn't know or doesn't fight themselves, if you get kicked on the right side of your body, that's where your liver is, and your liver processes alcohol. So if you take a tough body shot to the liver after you've been drinking, it doesn't feel too good. And all my training partners that train with me, they know after a day of drinking, they probably shouldn't train with Caveman because he's going to come liver hunting on you. And that's kind of like a running joke of the guys that drink that I train with. And it was pretty funny that Forrest remembered that to bring it up. So Forrest knows not to drink because I'm going for liver shots all day. So right now you're 10. We're going to play this podcast again in 9 years, and we're going to see how your views on drugs and alcohol change. How about that?
Okay, sounds good to me.
All right, because I want to see how your views change as you get older and you experience it more.
Well, then we got to put this one on a CD so we don't lose it.
Yeah, we will. What do you think about does your dad drink or do alcohol?
No.
What about your mom?
Yes.
She does drugs?
No.
Oh, okay.
But she drinks.
She drinks, right?
Alcohol, yeah.
Does that make you think she's less of a person?
What?
Does that make you think she's less of a person?
No. I think she enjoys it, and she cooks with it, and she loves to cook, so.
So to be the devil's advocate, are you holding fighters to a higher standard than you hold your mother?
Well, my mom doesn't have to me, my mom doesn't have to be, I don't know.
I think the answer she's looking for is yes.
my mom doesn't need to be Amanda Nunes, who's the current UFC bantamweight champion, I think. Female bantamweight champion. All she has to be is a person who takes care of me and who loves me.
Awesome, man. Thank you for your time, man. I really appreciate it. This is a really special experience for me to be able to have you on my podcast and just sit down and chillax. For anyone that doesn't know, we honestly don't really sit down and talk like this too much. Maybe we get 3 minutes in the car from the babysitter's house to the gym every day, and that's about the extent of our deep conversations.
Or if I go home or if I go home in your car.
Yeah, or if you go home in my car. Yeah, sometimes we talk a little bit. I really love you, man, and do you think me being a fighter has helped our relationship, hurt our relationship?
It's probably gone both ways.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff I probably don't know that how you fight is affected or is affecting my life, but I think since like you said, I was born and I went to I was born and I was kind of born into fighting pretty much. By the time I was 3, I was probably really experiencing things, and that's probably when I started missing you when you went off to go fight. But I'm also proud of you for fighting.
Yeah,
and I look up to you that way.
Everything I love MMA fighting. I love jiu-jitsu, and I'm trying to be a more outspoken member of that community. I hope it can open some doors for you. I have one last question, and we'll get out of here. Maybe we'll get some pizza and wings. What do you think about pizza and wings?
I love some good pizza right now.
See, I'm going to call you out again because you just called the other kids fat for eating stuff like that.
Well, one pizza occasionally every few months isn't too bad for you.
See, it sucks to be on this podcast, doesn't it?
Yep.
I keep calling you out for all your double standards.
Now I see how Mr. Mickey felt.
Now I know why Don Lily's avoiding this podcast. Gentleman Joe Goyette owes me another quarter for saying his name. All right. My last question is, are you ever going to fight?
I'd like to fight if my mom lets me. But one thing I've been thinking about lately, because I have been thinking about the subject quite a bit lately. I don't know if I'm ever going to turn pro, and I don't know if I'm going to ever do MMA. Because I'm, like, really a paranoid person about brain damage. I don't want it, and I don't want to even be, like, I don't want to be near, and I don't want, like, to you it's okay because it's my dad, but I don't want people encouraging me to have brain damage. That's why I hate playing tackle football with my friends. I'm always like, can't we play two-hand touch, please? But for anybody who doesn't play football, two-hand touch is basically if somebody touches you with two hands, it's basically like a tackle.
Do you play two-hand touch with the girls?
I don't play football with girls because these days girls hate football.
Okay, when you listen to this podcast in the future and we talk about this, you will laugh at that point, just so you know.
Besides the girl in the commercial or any other girl that's on a boys' team. So there was this one Auto Trader commercial. In the beginning, she kicks the back of the seat, and then next she's like a karate kid's red belt, and she kicks the thing over. And then
Bob punching dummy, right? I know which one you're talking about.
And then she kicks a soccer ball at the tire of the car, and then she punts probably a winning field goal, or a winning PAT point.
I was making a boob joke. We don't need to go into all this. You get it? Boob joke? Two-hand touch? You just see the look on it. I wish this was on YouTube.
God.
The look on his face was amazing. That's where I was going with it, man. We don't need to go into this whole deep thing. I'm trying to wrap up. Stay away from girls. Don't get anyone pregnant. Don't drink alcohol. Don't do drugs. Oh, have you noticed any brain damage in me? You said it's all right that I get brain damage. Have you noticed anything?
I don't mean that it's okay for you to get brain damage. I mean, I hate when you say you have brain damage. What I was trying to say is that I don't want people like saying play tackle football with me, or you should go fight pro MMA with like 1-ounce gloves and punch somebody's face in and get your face punched in. Like, I don't want brain damage, and I don't want to fight with my bare knuckles. So
those days are done. I paved that path for you. The bare knuckle days are gone.
Like I was saying, probably fight amateur where there's more protection and more rules.
Yeah.
But I think the most brain damage I've seen in you is...
You don't need to talk about Mr. Mickey like that. He's a little slow, but...
No, don't mean that.
Oh, okay.
But sometimes you slur a little bit.
Oh, you're talking about me. I'm
like
sorry.
every... Yeah, of course I am. The question was about you.
Yeah.
Like every one out of maybe... I don't know. Because this podcast was way more than 2,000 words, and I probably heard you slur like twice.
Yeah.
So...
Well, I'm very... I try to be more cognizant of how I speak when I'm on the podcast.
Yeah, but
I try not to spar this week because when I know I'm doing a bunch of podcasts, I try not to get hit in the head so much.
But even when you're like talking to me in the car after you work out, you really slur. If you've been working out really hard, you really probably slur every 1 out of 10,000 words.
1 out of 10,000 is not too bad. I'll take it. And until I'm slurring a lot, I'll be okay, I think.
And I don't think you'll ever slur like every word you say, because I know once you see that you slur more often, you probably know you should probably stop like doing it. And I know you probably won't stop doing a lot of stuff for fighting. Probably spar still, even when you're like 53 and you slur every 1 out of 2,000 words, but you know, that's just your mentality.
All right, man, we're going to get out of here, dude. I love you very much. Thank you for coming on this podcast and putting yourself out there.
Before you end it, one thing I wanted to say is that since you fought, no, this will be quick. The one thing that fuels me a lot to try my hardest in martial arts is I don't want to be exactly like you because
you can't be that handsome, right?
No, I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight pro mixed martial arts, but I want to have the same knowledge you do about mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
That's what kind of fuels me to learn about it.
Awesome, man.
And learn it.
To be honest with you, you can learn that without getting your head bashed in.
I know.
You don't need to
but
see
like
it.
For jiu-jitsu, I wanted to be like you. When I saw you had a purple belt or even a blue belt, I think I really wanted to have that. I wanted to have the same thing.
Yeah. Well, someday I'll be a black belt, and maybe someday I can give you your black belt, man.
Or maybe my blue belt. We could start there.
Yeah, we could start there.
End with black belt.
I'm not sure I have my black belt by the time you're ready for a blue belt, to tell you the truth.
You think? You won't have it when I'm 6? Then I'm like 25?
You'll be ready for a blue belt by the time you're old enough to get one.
No, not 25.
16. If you train from now till 16, dude, you'll be more than ready for a blue belt when you come out of the kids program. I'm not sure in 6 years I'll have a black belt, so.
I'm sure in 6 years you'll because you want to be a crew and you want to be a black belt because you really want to be in the community, so I'm sure you'll be a black belt in 6 years.
All right. Well, we'll see. When we listen to the podcast in 8 years, we'll see if I'm a black belt, you're a blue belt, and if you see, what boobs are, and we'll talk about drinking again.
Yep.
And don't get anyone pregnant. Don't do drugs. Mom's giving me the look again. Don't drink. And if you do drink, call me. I'll always get you home. Don't call Mom. She'll yell at you.
I think that's the most good advice you've given me in one sitting.
What's that? Don't call Mom? That's pretty good advice.
Remember, you said she's sitting in the studio earlier.
Yeah, I know. She's right there. I'm pointing right at her, and she's giving me the evil eyes. Look, she's chewing on her hands, so she won't yell at me right now. I'm going to go home, and I'm going to have to sleep on the couch. All right, we're going to get out. You got anything, last words to say?
Not really.
City honors is the best. You could finish with that, something like that,
Well, I do know like a 15, 16-year-old from City Honors that also does the same thing at the same gym.
Who's that?
Cole Hollis.
Cole Hollis? Is he the best Hollises?
Probably.
I think so too right now. I think Mason and Dylan are going to give him a run for his money though. All right, and we're out. Have a great evening. Hopefully we'll eat some chicken wings and pizza and get fat together since I haven't eaten all day. And we just been watching wrestling and talking all day.